Hello and welcome to CARM HARM, this time looking at homosexuality. I'm going to read what they have to say, not every single bit of it, but I'm going to read some of it and comment on it. And then I'm going to walk through some of the logical fallacies and some of the problems that this is. First of all, it should be noted that this whole section of homosexuality is under secular movements, as if homosexuality was a movement of some sort. So let me read what it has to say here. In today's world, there are many questions about homosexuality as it relates to Christianity. So it's important that we Christians have rational and reasoned discussions about what the Bible does and does not say about homosexuality. To that end, CARM has produced a section on homosexuality that we believe answers many of the core questions about homosexuality in a way that is true to the biblical text. Oh, no. My good friend MacLachlan, or as I'll just call him from now on, Mike, has recommended that I link a YouTube series dealing with the Bible issues of this particular topic. And this YouTuber has gone through every single passage that said anything about homosexuality in excruciating detail and done a far better examination of the theology than I myself could. Having said that, this is what I understand about what the Bible does really for real say about homosexuality if you actually go to the oldest possible manuscripts, which means you have to translate from the language that it's written in. Whenever in English it says homosexuality or gay or anything like that, that was added in later. That doesn't appear in the original Hebrew or Greek or as other language that it could have been written in, but it doesn't appear in the original language. It appears that when it is talking about certain actions you shouldn't do, it's talking about temple slaves, and there were male temple slaves and female temple slaves, and it was okay to do whatever you wanted with the female temple slaves, but not with the male temple slaves. It just wasn't okay for whatever reason. But that wasn't anything to do with homosexuality. That was just because, I don't know, rules needed to be made. And those rules from Deuteronomy are thought by many of the higher uppers, elites, to have been added by priests, not really been inspired by God at all. And now that's an appeal to authority. That's an appeal to a certain group of people. So it could be wrong as far as, who wrote Deuteronomy, who wrote these rules. We don't know. Who knows? But nonetheless, we don't follow most of the rules in there anyways. I mean Christians don't. I mean, they wear dual fabrics, they eat shrimp or other seafood that you're not allowed to. So if you're going to say that the one thing is bad, then all of it would be bad, and then you're under the Jewish law. Well, the smarter Christians get around this and say, well, but Jesus reaffirms this. There's passages in the New Testament that reaffirm that being homosexual is a sin. And again, if you go back to the original language and you look at it, it's not what it's saying at all. It's talking about lust. It's talking about having sex for the sake of having sex, rather than having sex because you're in love or to produce offspring. But even if the particular special knowledge interpretation that Matt Slick presents on his page is right, even if he's right, that still doesn't mean anything until Matt Slick shows us that the Bible is authoritative. The problem is, of course, Christians believe that the Bible is authoritative. The other problem is that many Christians are lazy and don't bother doing any further research. They'll read the English version and just think that's what it says. Oh, look, it said homosexuality is a sin. They won't go to the original language at all to see what it says there. So, there's a Read This First by Matt Slick. And it has a quote from Romans. If possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. Shouldn't that read all humans? Yeah, well, we're going to assume that men also means humans. But that's not what it says. So if we were to literally interpret this, then we can not be at peace with women. Or hermaphrodites, I guess. The Bible tells us to be at peace with all men. Yeah, okay, that's a nice thing. I'm not sure that it does, but it sure doesn't seem like you act like it does. All right, anyways. As Christians, we can do this with everyone, including homosexuals, as if they were accepted from this rule for any reason whatsoever. You could replace the word, if you replace the word homosexuals with blacks, I just wonder how much inflammatory stuff would be sent at Matt Slick. More than is already probably sent his way. Yes, we know that there are those who claim to be Christians who advocate hatred and violence towards homosexuals, and CARM stands in opposition to those who would promote such things. Isn't it interesting to slip in that no true Scotsman there? They claim to be Christians. See, they're not really Christians, because real Christians wouldn't do that. So the Westro Baptist Church, not Christians. They're not, no, we wash our hands. They're not really Christians, because Christians would never promote hatred or violence. But we might promote other things, but not hatred or violence. So if you're a true Christian, you can't promote hatred or violence for any reason. Which means then a true Christian could never vote for going to war, because that's violence. Or in fact, serve in the military. So every Christian that's in the military isn't a true Christian by what this says. Okay, alright. I'm moving on. However, homosexuality is an aggressive movement that will not leave Christians and society alone. As if this statement had any truth in reality whatsoever. I have not seen, and I'm not aware of, any violent homosexual demonstration. They've had the homosexual gay pride parade march in San Francisco. Has there ever really been anything? And there might be like one or two out there that I don't know of. But really, it won't leave Christianity alone. Oh, this persecution complex. Oh, they're coming after us. They're trying to, what are they trying to do? Make you homosexual? What's going on here? And they won't leave society alone. See, so we just want them to leave society, period. See, you don't even need that alone part. That's what's really being said here in the subcontext. We're fine with homosexuals. We just don't want you in our society. So it's like the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. We're fine with the, yes, take care of the homeless, but far away from where I live, right? Alright, so I won't leave society alone. In a movement that is intruding into the media, schools, religious institutions, society, and politics, that's resulted in great division, debate, and anger. Bull. That is an outright lie. Just utter lies. Matt Slick, cut it out. No, it hasn't intruded in any of those places. The media has, yes, reported on homosexuality from time to time. As far as it being in schools, they've had to fight very hard to have groups in schools, clubs, where you can be a club member of that is a homosexual or transsexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay, bi club. Just like any other club can be created in a school that allows clubs to be created, there is no reason why an LGBT club shouldn't be able to be created. And in fact, most colleges as well have these clubs. And the club that I was aware of said, we welcome anyone to join. So, why? Because we want you to know that we're just real people and we're just, we're not sexually, we're different, that's it, than you. And we just want you to see us as people, that's all. But this is fear mongering and poisoning of the well. As far as religious institutions, it doesn't matter what you do to any religious institution. They're going to do whatever they want anyways. We could all start mailing a megachurch to scale down their megachurch. And we could have thousands and thousands of letters sent to them, and they wouldn't change. We could rally tens of thousands of people to protest 24 hours a day for an entire week or month around a megachurch for it to scale down, and it wouldn't change. Religious institutions resist and ignore any change. And rarely, if ever, have actually really changed. Look at how much pressure was put on the Catholic institution to name names and let the justice be done. Let us examine these priests. Let us put these priests on trial. No. We're going to move them around. We're not going to tell you who they are. They are protected by us. We'll deal with them. You're not allowed. How much pressure did society put on them to do otherwise? And they resisted that and, in fact, won. They ignored it, and they won. So, even if this is true, it's ridiculous. Society, they just, homosexuals, like anybody else, they just want equal rights. They just want equal treatment. They just want to be treated as if there is no difference, which there isn't. America is supposed to be, supposedly, a land of equal opportunity, yet that's the exact opposite that we see. And when we have this nonsense promoted on a website that has huge followings, huge avid fans, people, and this website alone isn't the only problem, because there's far, far more churches and other websites that have this same sort of thing against homosexuality, that it's some sort of agenda, that it's some sort of movement. And you know what? I don't care if they do have an agenda or a movement. I really don't care, because all I care about is what are their logical arguments and do they make sense. And their logical argument is basically, hey, we want equal rights. Well, dang, I can't argue with that. There's no reason to argue with that. Alright, back to reading this bunch of lies here. And, of course, politics that's resulted in great division, debate, and anger. Well, you know what? The anger is from your side, really. And the anger is the frustration of not getting equal rights and not being treated fairly. And the anger is probably because you're basically saying, we don't want you in society. That's basically what you're saying. Debate, of course we're debating, because you're wrong and they're right. So yes, there are going to be debates. Of course, homosexuals are not the only ones guilty of this. Fault lies with everyone. But with an aggressive agenda comes conflict. And with great power comes great responsibility. Where is the facts that show that the homosexual community is aggressive? Anything? We got anything on that? No, nothing referenced, no links, no statistics showing all the violence that's been confirmed, blah, blah, blah. No, just Matt Slick saying it's aggressive, so we're supposed to believe him. Nevertheless, again, we must say we're not advocating any violence against homosexuals. saying that our biblical position promotes violence doesn't make it so. Well, you know what? Your biblical book there does say to stone people to death. And Jesus said, none of the law is gone, but then Jesus later said the law is gone, so I don't know. But, yeah, there are certainly parts in the Bible that do advocate violence. There's certainly some Christians that have used that today and in the past. The KKK regularly uses the Bible to justify many of it, or all of its actions. And, again, back to, when we had slaves, many people used the Bible as justification for doing so. Okay. Again, we stand in opposition to violence. Personally, I would step in to defend a homosexual if she were being assaulted. Really, Matt Slick? I don't know. I'd like to believe that Matt Slick would step in to help somebody being assaulted, but I don't know how he would know what they were or whatever. But I just really find it hard to believe that Matt Slick would put his own life in the line of fire for anyone else. But that's just my personal subjective opinion of Matt Slick, which is really, really low, especially after our conversation. But at any rate. However, CARM's position, which is consistent with its statement of faith, holds to the biblical position that recognizes homosexuality as a sin and ultimately harmful to society, families, and to one's one's eternal salvation. So, now, let me outline statement of faith. So, the CARM website has a statement of faith. Not a statement of fact, not a statement of backed by lots of research and empirical data and tests or logically coherent arguments, a statement of faith. So, if you yourself are a Christian and you yourself happen to agree with the idea that homosexuality is a sin, and you haven't done a shred of research yourself to see if you could be wrong, then you can just go on faith and believe what you want to believe, and that makes it okay, I guess. If I was to do a webpage called FARM, I don't know, Freedom Apologetic Reason Man, I don't know. Anyways, and say, I have a statement of faith that science is true, blah, 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 that's why atheism is true. I mean, I would just get bombarded with emails and videos, telling me, aha, we got you. See, atheism isn't anything more than a faith. You don't have any facts, and all this. And even, of course, the atheists would go after me too, because atheism isn't a faith. It's a non-anything. It's just a non-belief in God. That's it. But nonetheless, who cares about your stupid statement of faith? I only care about facts. So, unless and until you have something, we're going to have to be skeptical of your conclusions here. So it's very important to note that everything that is being said is based on Matt Slick's own personal interpretation of what the Bible says. So, if you are a Christian and you have not checked into what the Bible really says, don't just look at the English versions and don't just listen to Matt Slick, but do the research. Get something like eSword that has a lot of different translations built into it. You can download more, and you can see what the original says, what the original language says, and how it actually translates. And you can see that Matt Slick is full of it, even theologically speaking. It's not harmful to society, families, at all, in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if anything, it's helpful to society and families, because a homosexual couple is a family, and homosexuals have a higher rate of adoption, and not just adoption, but a higher rate of adopting special needs children, and we can show that with actual data. So that's helpful to society, because there's far too many kids in the adoption centers who need somebody who will love and care for them. And so far, homosexuals have been more likely to do that and more likely to raise their kids in a loving, caring, tender environment. And so far, we haven't had any domestic violence reports, although I'm sure as the gay community grows, that will happen. But comparatively speaking, there have been no domestic abuse things. There's been no child abuse things from the homosexual community. They are tender, loving people. I'm sure that there's exceptions to that statement, like there is with any piece of humanity that we want to examine. But my point is, the research shows that this is helpful to society. How could it harm a family? Like a man and a woman married with kids. How in the world could Bob and Joe, that are happily living together next door, harm that family? In no way, shape, or form could they, unless they're outside in the front yard having sex. Then then they get arrested for public indecency. And if they keep doing it, then eventually they're gonna stay in jail for longer and longer, right? So that's not what happens. It's not like they're saying, "Hey, kids, come over here. We're going to talk about how being gay is the only way to be," or anything. So no, it's not harmful to society or families. As far as being harmful to one's eternal salvation, that would require special knowledge on Matt Slick's part. Only if Matt Slick is correct about the way that he thinks the Bible is meant to be interpreted as, rather than what the Bible actually might really say for real. And you know what? If there is such a thing as salvation, and if God's going to be so picky that he's not going to let in gays, and then screw that God. Really. The God that Matt Slick promotes is a evil dictator, really nasty God. Because, I'm not going to let you in. You're homosexual. Oh, you don't believe in me? You don't get to come in either. Well, what a picky guy. Come on, God. Lighten up. You made us. It's your fault we're this way. No, I gave you a choice. Yeah, you set us up to fail. You knew that we were going to fail. You set up your own system to fail, and then you were picky enough when people don't follow your system so that you don't let them in. Anyways, I digress. Therefore, the purpose of these articles is to defend the right of Christians to say that homosexuality is a sin, and to not be intimidated by homosexuals or the liberal media into remaining silent. Wow. You have the right for freedom of speech, Matt Slick and CARM. It's guaranteed. You have the right to say whatever the bleep you want on the internet or anywhere else you want. There are some restrictions. You can't go into an airport and say, "Hi, Jack!" even if you're calling out to your friend that's name is Jack, because you'll probably get arrested. You also can't be in an airport and say, "I have a bomb!" really loud, because again, you will be arrested. But other than a few exceptions, we all have freedom of speech. No one can take it away from you. I will defend to the death the right of you to say whatever nonsense you want to say. As far as being intimidated into remaining silent, persecution, wah wah. You've got the airwaves, you've got the publicities, you've got the press already. By and large, many people already are convinced that homosexuality is a sin, and fighting against that idea is extremely hard. You remaining silent, it's about you being less and less important, and your messages being less and less important. As society moves forward, we're going to leave you further and further behind. Everyone that thinks homosexuals or homosexuality is a sin is going to be left behind as more and more of us realize that that's nonsense. Maybe there's a God, maybe there is such a thing as sin, but homosexuality definitely isn't a sin. And if you actually looked at the Bible, not just an English translation, you would know that. But let's be lazy. And of course, it's liberal media. Of course, it's, well, whatever. Counter the arguments in support of homosexuality. Really, that should be interesting. Answer objections to the Christians' denunciation of homosexuality. Well, that should be interesting too. Provide statistical information to both Christian and non-Christians regarding homosexuality, its practices, and health risks. Guarantee you 0 links will be provided, or those said links will be old and defunct and no longer relevant. I guarantee you that the statistical information is I haven't looked ahead, but I'm betting that I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong I'll say that I was wrong. I'm betting there will be no links, or that the links that are there will be old, defunct, and debunked already. Provide Christians with biblical responses to homosexuals, namely, to love them and pray for them. Aww. Yeah, love them, pray for them, but tell them that you're an awful, dirty sinner. Although the Bible says, judge not lest ye be judged, so whatever. Alright, so note, the term homosexual will be used in these articles to designate both male and females who are attracted to people of the same sex and participate in sexual relations with people of the same sex. Did we really need that explained? Oh, right, this is being written for the dumb sheeple. I forgot. We do need every little thing explained. Okay, so that's the intro of this series, and I'm not sure what to cover next. Mike is going to cover the terms and definitions. There's a couple of other sections before that I could cover, but I think that they really would be more the same. There's more important little things to cover besides that. But you know what? I want to do this justice. I want to annihilate every single part of this. So I hope that you bear with me as I do cover every single section here. And Mike is going to be covering a number of sections as well. So look forward to that. And you know what? I just want to end on some attempt of a positive note here. If there's a God, it made you fine, just the way you are. It made you, and you are perfect. You are beautiful, you are unique, you are interesting, you have ideas, and you know what? Stuff in life might turn you into a jerk, but the great thing about being human is you can learn that you're a jerk and stop being a jerk and be good again and be a nice person again. And your goal in life should be to be the best person that you can be, to help as much as you can, to love as many as you can for as long as you can, etc. And that's it. Everything else is irrelevant, because if there is a God, it made us who we are, and if God is perfect, then we are perfect just the way we are. Maybe we need a little bit of improvement. Maybe we need to not be so judgmental of others. And maybe it's our own fault. Maybe, in fact, a God did make us, but then we proceeded to make religions and make God out to be this horrible monster, and then in turn use that to justify monstrous deeds to do to each other. And maybe God saw that, gave up on humanity, and went away. Who knows? I don't know. But you know what? I want to say, from me, deconverted man, to you, whoever you might be, you're fine just the way you are. And just be a good person. That's all. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time. And listen until we have logically coherent arguments, which we certainly don't hear. We have to continue to be skeptical of the conclusions.